Welcome to the Epic Success Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Shannon Irvin. All right, we just had an amazing Modern Money Making Methods Summit where I brought some of my dear friends on like Pat Flynn, Sean Cannell, Heather Torres, Christina Jandali, and Sarah Robbins. We all talked about what was working now. So that's what this week's podcast is all about. It's about cracking that six-figure code as a coach, as a course creator or service provider. So here we go. Without further ado, I am going to bring on the amazing Christina Jandali. Good morning, Christina.
Good morning, my lovely. How are you?
We're great. So we're just kicking off streaming in a bunch of areas, and we're talking about modern money making methods. And I, at the top, right before you jumped on, I was sharing with them our hearts for this summit. And this one-day summit is all around kind of our conversation, which is funny because Christina and I have I call them parking lot conversations because I'm usually in the parking lot and we're like deep diving, but we were talking about like what's working now versus what was working 2 years ago and how it breaks our hearts collectively, everybody on the panel, to see people struggle and continue to do what used to work but is no longer working in the marketplace because they're, whether we like it or not, whether we want to hit rewind or not, like it has shifted, right? It has shifted. And so it absolutely is going to be a powerful time today. So Christina, I already kind of bragged on you. I think it was before you jumped in and talked about all of the amazingness that you are. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and I will disappear and Christina will take over. So have fun.
Amazing. Thank you. So just a shout out to Shannon, who is a dear, dear friend of mine. And we've done many, many different collaborative events together. But one of the things that I absolutely love about Shannon is her heart of service, and love the concept and the idea of putting this event together and having the opportunity to be the come from the perspective or the viewpoint of, we have this opportunity. Think about this from this one perspective is that, Shannon and I, we've been business besties for a number of years, and we have the opportunity to be in rooms with other, 7-figure business owners, 8-figure business owners, and talk about what's working now, what has shifted in the marketplace, how have things adapted, what are the things that you want to be mindful of, how are things moving, how do we stay ahead of the curve? And we're in these conversations all the time. And I understand that when you are in earlier stages of business, or you might not have the capacity or the space to be in the room like that, to be in a room, to be like the fly on the wall, to hear what are the conversations going on. So just a hats off to Shannon for putting this incredible event together, for pulling together these incredible speakers that are going to be coming on. I'm looking forward to hearing the other speakers coming on as well, and giving you the opportunity to kind of get that inside perspective as to what's going on in the marketplace today. So I'm going to be talking, I'm known by many as the go-to expert on Facebook groups. My name's Christina Jandali. I know that Shannon did a quick intro as well. And I wanted to first kind of talk about, before we even get into, I see some familiar faces here. Hello. Before we even get into speaking about Facebook groups, I want to talk about who here wants more clients. Just put me in the chat box if that's you. Like, yes, I want more clients. Who wants more clients? You want to get more coaching clients? You want to get more sales to your programs, to your courses, right? Just put me in the chat if that's you. Hi, Desiree. Hey, Greg. Nice to see you guys. Tanisha, my goodness. Hello. Okay. Barbara says, yes, me. Okay. So we want to get more clients. So let's start with the end game. We want to get more clients. And I find that so often we have this idea, and a lot of marketing out there, and sadly a lot of what marketing is out there is almost demonstrating that everything should happen easily. Everything should just come in with no effort, with ease. And then we think that maybe there's something wrong with us if things aren't coming in as easily. Maybe you've thought that before. I know I certainly did. Like, why does it look so easy for them? So I've really been curious to study and really look at the differences between those who are selling out their programs with ease, those who have wait lists of clients coming in versus those who feel like they're kind of struggling, trying to make their mark, struggling to get people to pay attention to them, struggling for people to understand how they can help them. And I've started to notice that many struggling entrepreneurs, much like I was, I must say in the beginning, I had this idea or this concept that if I posted content and put enough content out there, social media, in my Facebook group, that if I did a good job, if I presented, if I gave high value in my content, that people would see it and they would want to hire me. Has anyone thought that way before? Like you're waiting and hoping that if you deliver enough value in your content, someone's going to say, hey, can I hire you? How do I work with you? Tell me I'm not the only one that had this experience before. Has anyone ever felt that way before, thinking if I just give enough value, if I just put out enough content, people are going to be interested to wanting to work with me? And when they don't initiate that contact with you, right? When they're not initiating that contact with you, it can feel frustrating. It can feel like wondering, like maybe your content wasn't good enough, or maybe you weren't in front of the right people, or maybe you didn't have the right idea, or maybe there's something new that you need to come up with that you haven't shared before. Or perhaps because the pressure of putting out that perfect content has prevented you from putting content out there in the first place. It's like, well, I need it to be perfect. Well, you start writing something and then you edit it and then you're tweaking it. Well, I don't know, that's not great yet. I mean, it used to take me, no joke, it used to take me hours to write a post and to edit a post and to get it up, to be ready to put out there. And I still wouldn't get the response that I was looking for. So if you've been thinking or hoping that putting the content out there is going to produce that response from your ideal clients to want to initiate contact with you, it's not likely. Now, can it happen? Absolutely, but it's not highly likely. They're not going to come already pre-sold on wanting to work with you, especially in the early stages of business. As you continue to build your business and build your database and build your rapport with your followers, yes, that's more likely, but certainly not so much in the earlier stages. And what I refer to is that maintenance content, your day-to-day content that you're doing on an ongoing basis, whatever social platform you're on or inside of your Facebook group, that's your maintenance content, that day-to-day content that you're doing. It's actually the least effective way to convert your leads into buyers. So that day-to-day content. Now you might be thinking, well, Christina, everyone says I need to be consistent with my content. I need to be consistent with posting. I need to be consistent with putting stuff out there. So why might that be important? Why would maintenance content be important? And this is a huge distinction. There's maintenance everyday content, and then there's what you're going to use to convert people into buyers. And this has really shifted in the marketplace. So your job of your day-to-day content, take a guess at it. Go ahead and try to take a stab at it. Your maintenance content, your day-to-day content, if it's not meant to sell directly, what is it meant to do? There's 3 jobs that your day-to-day content has. And here's why it's important, because if you don't have these 3 things, when you do present an offer, your people won't be tuned in and you won't have a captive audience. I love it, Tanisha. Tanisha says visibility. What might be the job of your maintenance content? Connection, Sarah says. Okay, so job number 1 of your maintenance content, it's to build trust. It's to build trust with you. And how do you create trust? We create trust when we do what we say we're going to do and we're consistent with it. I remember years ago reading a book. It's by Sally Hogshead. It's called How the World Sees You. And she was a marketer and she built marketing campaigns for Harley Davidson, for the Austin Mini, and some big brands that you would know today. So she was the one that had developed these marketing campaigns. And she wrote this book, and it was How the World Sees You, and it has a personality assessment. I don't know about you, but I love my personality assessments. I love understanding how we think, and and having sort of a concept of where we're at. And speaking of, Shannon has a great quiz. If you haven't done that, I'm sure she can share it with you later on to go through it as well. Fabulous quiz to sort of self-diagnose, see what category you're falling into. So when it comes to, so I was reading this, I did this assessment, and it would tell you your greatest strengths, and it would tell you the area that was your weakness. And when I did this, it told me that my weakness was trust. What? How's that possible? I'm trustworthy? How would that possibly be the case? Like I'm my word, I do what I say I'm going to do. I'm trustworthy. And I remember just being really offended at it, quite honestly. But let's read this. I'm going to read through the explanation. And this is what really landed with me. The explanation of trust was continually showing up on an ongoing and consistent basis where you're developing trust in your relationship. So building trust with your audience comes with consistency. If you stop and start with your content, if you stop and start with your approach, if you show up only when you want something, it's not going to build trust. So building trust isn't like, with this idea of like, I'm a good person, I do what I say I'm going to do. Building trust is doing what you're saying, what you're going to do, but doing it on a consistent basis. So your maintenance content is meant to build trust. That's number one. Number two, it's meant to create engagement and conversation. Now, engagement and conversation is a two-way street, isn't it? Right? We're not just talking at people, we're talking with people. We're asking questions, we're creating conversation. So your day-to-day maintenance content builds trust, it builds engagement and conversation. And the third piece that it does for you is it allows you to plant seeds. It allows you to drop seeds about how you help people, about your offer, about what it would look like for people to take that next step with you. So your maintenance content allows you to plant thoughts in the minds of your ideal clients to evoke desire for your offer. So number one, trust. Number two, engagement and conversation. And number three, planting seeds and depositing these thoughts in your ideal client's mind to evoke desire and demand for your paid offer. So if we don't have those pieces, if we don't have your day-to-day maintenance content, then when you do make your paid offer, it's going to fall on deaf ears. So although your maintenance content is not meant to convert, it's like the appetizer, it's the warm-up, it's what's going to allow you to have that pool of people that are interested. Now, let's work backwards for getting clients. So how do we get clients? Well, it has to start with a lead. And I'm going to define a lead as someone that comes into your ecosystem. So what would be your ecosystem? Right? Someone that comes into your sphere, comes into your ecosystem. So I would define your ecosystem. I would define your ecosystem as this space where people come into. This could be your email list. This could be your Facebook group. It's like the center hub. It's where people are coming in to your world, to your sphere. So that's your ecosystem. So I want you to think about we'll talk a little bit about this as we go through it. But if we think about to get clients, we're going to work backwards. That means that someone needs to come into your sphere of influence. They need to come into your ecosystem. And I look at your ecosystem as your email list and your Facebook group. Someone that has taken action to be in your ecosystem. Someone that's a follower on social media hasn't necessarily taken an action step other than click subscribe or click follow or click like yet. So they haven't necessarily taken an action in exchange for something yet, although they might be on the outer the outer layers of your ecosystem. They haven't come into your sphere, into your world yet, right? It's like the window dressings out there. In fact, that's how we'd look at, when you look at all of your social media, when you look at what you're putting out there, whether it is, Instagram or your Facebook business page or YouTube or all those areas, I want you to think about that as like your window dressing. It's like the outside of the store. People are walking by like, hey, do I want to check it out? Do I want to go in the store? And your Facebook group is like, come on inside, come hang out with me. This is my digital living room. Same with your email list. Let's come hang out. Let's be together. So that's like the center of your ecosystem. So someone that has taken an action step to come in to your world, into your ecosystem. So we know that's a lead. A lead is someone that's already come into your ecosystem. So how do we convert a lead into a buyer? How do we convert a lead into a buyer? And we're kind of going through like some of these core basic elements because I think it's so important. We sometimes fast forward and we think about all the flashy new tactics. And what we want to get back is to the business principles. And then we look at the best avenue to execute on those business principles. And what we're seeing is with more and more people breaking into the market, more and more people flooding into the online market space, there's a lot more noise. And as a result of a lot more noise, people are starting to stand out, trying to speak louder, scream louder, dance more, point more to stand out. But if we come back to business principles, you're going to build a business that doesn't matter the economy, doesn't matter how things are changing, that you're going to be able to successfully carve through and create your own economy. So we have a lead that comes into your ecosystem, and the lead becomes a buyer when there's a transaction, right? So there's a payment made. There's an agreement of service or value that is exchanged with a payment. You take money and you're giving something in return for that transaction. But before we even get into talking about a transaction, I want to hear from you. What is it that you sell? Or what is it that you want to sell? Are you selling coaching? Are you selling a course? Are you selling a membership? Are you selling a mastermind? What is it that you're selling? What is it that you're selling? Go ahead and put it in. Let me know so I can see. Helps me get an idea. Maybe you're selling a product. What is it that you're selling? Coaching, course, membership, product, health and wellness, products, amazing. Coaching and training course, fantastic. Nancy and Tanisha, you're on the ball this morning, or it might be later on in the day for you as you go through it. What else? I want to hear from you. What is it that you're selling? What is it that you're selling to your people? Or what is it that you desire to sell? What is it that you want to put out in the world? What is it that you want to give people? How is it that you want to help people? Product. Okay. So product and business, great. What else? What is it that you're selling? So no matter how much so we're selling all these, we have all these, you're selling transformation, you're selling coaching, amazing. And how long have you been doing this for? Are you brand new, 6 months, a year, 5 years? Maybe you've been doing this for 20 years. Whatever it is for you, go ahead and put that in. Coaching others to have prosperous life without alcohol, amazing. Just getting started, fantastic. What a great place to be if you're just getting started, to get the opportunity to be on the inside track with so many incredible speakers today. 33 years, amazing. 1 year, 4 years, fantastic. So how does a transaction happen? Number one, there's only two ways a transaction can happen. Your soon-to-be client or customer either lands on a sales page and they check out. They see a sales page, it says all the details of your product or your program. They say, yes, I want to buy that, and they check out. Now, when you're doing a sales page, it requires a much higher skill level of marketing, and it's not as effective in the early stages of business. Because if we don't know how to speak and communicate with our ideal clients in a way that lands with them and hits them in the heart immediately, they're going to tune out, or they're going to get distracted, or they're not going to be compelled to take that action step. What is the other way that a soon-to-be client can go through a transaction with you? They can have a conversation with you, right? Let's get back to basic human conversation, which is so often missed. They can have a conversation with you. And in that conversation, you make an offer, you can collect payment, or you're making an agreement with them, an exchange of money in exchange for service or value of an offer. And that can be followed up with a contract, followed up with an agreement. Now, this is going to be the most effective way to convert. It's not scalable beyond a certain point unless you start developing your sales team, but it is the most effective way to sell high ticket. It's the most effective way to build your skill set and master conversation, master your marketing message, and really get tuned in to what your people are looking for, what they're struggling for, and how you can specifically help them. So your soon-to-be client, the only two ways that they can create a transaction with you is, number one, they go to a page, a sales page, and they read all the details and they say, yeah, I want that, and they check out. Or they have a conversation with you. That's it. The only two ways that you could have a transaction. And so based on this, we can all agree, number one, a lead is someone that comes into your ecosystem, into your sphere. And so we want to be generating leads and having leads coming into your ecosystem. Number two, a lead turns into a buyer through a transaction, right? There's a transaction that occurs. There's an agreement that happens. There's an exchange that happens. And the third piece is that a transaction happens through either a sales page or happens through an enrollment conversation. And we've really been shifting in the marketplace away from volume automation where there's no personalization. People want more personalization than ever. And you even think through automated mechanisms where there is automation, there's more personalization than ever. Like if I'm going to order food, I can go and skip the dishes and order food, and I can go and make all the adjustments to the meal that I want to have and have it delivered to the house because there's personalization in it. We are moving into an era where personalization is key. People want to feel like things are customized to them and their experience. And we're moving away from every one size fits all blast automations where it feels like just like you're one of thousands and thousands of people. Wouldn't you agree? If you think about this, even when you shop on Amazon, they say, wow, people like you, they also bought these other products. I'm a sucker for that. I don't know about you, but I'm such a sucker for that. I'm like, yes, oh, that looks good. I want that too. And I think it's so helpful. So we have this customization of experiences that happen. So you can either do that through automation, which is going to be a higher skill level, and you've got to know your audience inside and out to do that in an automated capacity. Or as you're learning and you're developing, you're creating that experience because your people, they're craving connection. They want human connection. They want personalization. They want to feel like they matter. They want to feel like their voice matters. They want to feel like you care. That's what your people are looking for. Do you care about me? Can you help me? Are you able to help me? And so for the purpose of today, I'd really like to focus for a moment just on conversation, right? On that conversation, that connection that we have with people, because conversations convert. And conversations provide you with clarity for your marketing message. Even when you don't know how to articulate what you're selling or how you help people, I can promise you, the more people that you speak to, the better you're going to get. In fact, 2 years ago, I decided to come up with a new offer. I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, I was thinking about this new offer that I wanted to come up with, and I knew that there was a gap. I know that I'm called to help create millionaires. My background came from finance. I feel like it's a missing aspect in this online world, in this online sphere. And I know that I'm called to create millionaires. But I was working with a small group of, I was working with quite a large pool of people through my signature course. And we would work together for about 8 weeks. And then that would be it. And then I'd work with a small group of people at a higher level, more intimately. And I remember thinking to myself, well, if I want to create 1,000 millionaires in this world, how am I going to do that with this business model? There's a gap. Okay, so how am I going to fill this gap? And so I started thinking about, how am I going to solve for this gap? So I came up with this concept of this new offer. And as I was coming up with this concept for this new offer, I didn't know exactly what it was going to include, but I knew that I was going to help people build cash flow in their business. And if they're going to build cash flow, they need to build an audience and they need to learn how to sell to them. That's it. 2 things that they have to learn. And so without getting into anything else, I thought, okay, that's what I know that I'm going to sell, but I don't know how to communicate this with people. I don't know how I'm going to speak to this. So I just started talking to people. In fact, the first 2 buyers that came through this offer, I still wasn't clear on exactly how I was going to deliver it, what it was going to look like, but I knew where my heart was. I knew where my vision was, and I stayed connected to that. So I want you to think about, and that very offer, I had sold over $500,000 in that one offer before ever having a sales page, before being really clear on how to articulate how I was going to help people. But I was having conversations, and conversations convert. Conversations provide you with clarity of your message. Conversations create connections, and conversations get you clear on explaining your offer in a very clear, concise, and simple way that people get it, right? In a way that people get it. And so how do we make connections for people to be booking conversations with you? I'm going to demonstrate to you a super simple path to be able to do that. So we talked about so we want to make invitations to book conversations, because conversations are going to sell. So we look at, well, how many invitations are you making each day? So if you're wondering how to get clients and you're an online business owner, then the answer is you want to be booking calls. And if you're more advanced, you want to be doing that through automation, because you've mastered the skill set of marketing. There's only 2 skill sets that you want to master. We're going to get into booking calls in a second here. There's the marketing skill set and the selling skill set. Marketing skill set has 2 parts. One is your ability to call people into your ecosystem, to generate those leads and bring people into your ecosystem. That's stage 1 of marketing. Stage 2 of marketing is to move your people to a call to action, which means that you're inviting them to book that call with you. They're going to that sales page to purchase from you. So your skill set of marketing is to bring people into your sphere, into your world, and your ecosystem, and to take the people that are in your ecosystem and move them to take an action with you that's going to move them to becoming a buyer. And the second skill set is selling. Now, selling is where we're converting those leads, or we're converting those calls into buyers. But the only way we get to develop these skill sets, right? The only way that we get to develop these skill sets is through action and repetition. So I want you to think about this for a moment. If you're bringing people in, so we look at your social media platforms and the places that you're visible is like the window dressing, right? Where people are coming in, it's your marketing, where you're bringing people in. And as you're bringing people in, that's like the window dressing, you're inviting people to come inside. So let's say your Facebook group, bringing people to come inside your Facebook group. So first impressions matter. When you bring people into your Facebook group, you have the opportunity to ask them 3 questions. I recommend that one of the questions that you ask them is, what's the number 1 question you have as it relates to whatever your topic is, your area of expertise? So what's the number 1 question you have as it relates to your Facebook group? What's the number 1 question you have as it relates to being more productive? What's the number 1 question you have as it relates to getting your kids to listen? What's the number 1 question you have as it relates to meeting a good quality man, or the love of your life, or something along the lines of that? Now you have this question that someone's just shared with you from their heart. What's the top of mind question they just want to get answered right now? When you do that, you ask that top of mind question. When you ask that question, you then can send them a direct message, right? You can go on there and send them a direct message. You can welcome them into your group. Hey, so great to have you. Thank you so much for coming. So fantastic to have you. Welcome. I'm just going to give you an example. Welcome to the Sold Out Coaching Facebook groups. Fantastic to have you. Just wanted to send you a personal welcome. I also am just going to tag you on the welcome post in the group. And as I do that, I notice that in your pre-join questions, You mentioned that your number one question was whatever, XYZ. And I just wanted to talk, I just had another question around that. And so you can ask a clarifying question around that. You can engage in conversation. And right then and there in that conversation, if that person is a potential ideal client, boom, you can make the invitation for them to book a call with you. It doesn't need to be that complicated. It doesn't need to be that complicated. So new people coming in and making that invitation. Or you can send them to a free training, or you can let them know I answered this question in another piece. The point is that you're making that initial contact. You're making that initial connection with them, which is opening up the door, right? Which is opening up the door for them to be able to be able to make that, you start that relationship. So people come into your ecosystem, right? That's the lead that comes into your ecosystem. You invite them from there to take an action step with you, to book that call with you, to have that conversation with you. It's that call or that conversation or that sales page that is going to convert them into a buyer and take that transaction. So the moment that people come into your group, into your hub, you can create that connection. You can make that invitation, you can have that conversation, and you can create those buyers. And as you get more masterful with this process, as you speak more clearly, as you get more concise with your explanation, as you're able to articulate how you help people more clearly, you will start hearing, yes, I want to work with you. How do I work with you? What does that look like? What's my next step going to be? And you start creating buyers. So I want to invite you to consider the thought or the concept that instead of learning more things, instead of doing more things, what we want to do is we want to create, right? Instead of doing more things, creating more, like we want to create connection. And we want to better understand your ideal clients. So you can understand their languaging. You can understand their words. You can understand what they're looking for from you. And you can start getting stronger and better at your way of delivering. And once you master this, once you get so clear and so concise with this, you can move people through automation in a way that feels customized, in a way that feels personalized, because you're speaking to all of their thoughts, their fears, their doubts, their beliefs, their desires. You're speaking to it more effectively than they could ever articulate it themselves, because you've taken the time to get to know your people so well, so clearly, and you've been able to see firsthand when you communicate, did it land with them? Did they get it? And if it didn't, what can you do differently next time? How can you tweak this? And you continue to get better, because mastery comes from repetition. Mastery doesn't come from doing a gazillion of different things all at once. Mastery comes from doing one thing over and over again and getting better and stronger at it. And the more clearly you can describe how you can help someone, the more people are going to tune in, the more people are going to pay attention. So really wanted to just give the opportunity to share that with you on a simple way, a simple method, so that you can be generating those clients.
Okay, right? Powerful. If like already out of the gate, your mind is like freaking blown and you're like, wait a minute. I put in there as a comment, anti-perfection. Like we're always looking for like the 75 bazillion step funnel to the thing. And I feel like I watch entrepreneurs kind of like juggling, right? And it's so simple. And so, and one thing that you said that really landed, by the way, y'all, I'm texting now, so I got to say y'all, I'm over here. I'm practicing that. I'm over here like taking notes, because even though I've been in this for a while, sometimes it's like, oh yeah, you know what? Those two things, the marketing and sales piece that she broke down for you, it's like, if you just master that, you can get fancy later. And that's what I tell all my coaches. You know what? You can get fancy later, but if you master those two things, the fancy converts better than if you try to master fancy and then you haven't mastered those two things. And currency, connection and currency, like that is, I know in our conversations, Christina, we've talked about that, like where before it was like, it was good to connect. Now it's a must to connect. And I'm going to be talking about that in my training a little bit, because like if we miss that boat, if we're still trying to do the set it and forget it thing, then we're going to struggle, right? Thank you so much, Christina. See, this is what I told you. Generosity in this group is like overflowing. So I didn't ask her to bring anything to give you, but thank you so much for being so powerful and showing up right where you saw people needed it the most. So Christina, thank you for being on the summit. And as we sign off, any last minute thoughts? Where can people connect with you as we bring Heather in and introduce her?
Yes, you can imagine that. Facebook. You can connect with me on Facebook. So you can find me on Facebook, Christina Jandali personally, or you can find me on Instagram at Christina.Jandali. But as we're going through this, I just want to, can we just give just like a huge hats off to Shannon? She's such an incredible human. And I know that, you know, we've done so many collaborative events together. There's been so many things that we have had the opportunity to do together, and she doesn't know this, but one of her, she doesn't know that I was going to do this either, but but one of the causes that Shannon is such a stand for in her nonprofit is helping orphan children, double orphan children with AIDS in Africa, and helping support them with basic essentials and education. And you know, you may or may not know this, depending on if you're brand new to Shannon or you've been in Shannon's world for a long time, but she is always about providing and giving back and giving more. And I mean, this whole event is something that she's put together to support you. And so I'm going to be donating $1,000 to your nonprofit today.
Oh, Christina, thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much.
And
now you're gonna make me cry.
I don't know if there's anything that you're going to be doing today for the nonprofit or not, because we haven't talked about this yet. Yeah. And if you are or not, or whatever that is, if you're not, then I'd love to invite everyone else, if you have that within you, to help support Shannon in her cause for nonprofit and be able to give back. I think it would be a wonderful opportunity to be able to do that. And I'd love to kick us off with that this morning.
Woo, thank you, Christina. I'll pop in the link to that if that is something that you are called to do. If God's put it on your heart, like it has Christina, then we would love that, because it really does go a long, long way to help kids who have lost both mom and dad to AIDS in Uganda. And we are stepping in the gap and hiring widows to move in with them and help them become kids again, just like Scripture says, to defend the rights of the widow and orphan in their distress. So thank you, Christina.
Thanks for having me.
Have an amazing day.
You too. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for listening today. Hey, down in the show notes, the doors are open to the Think Neuro Coach certification. This is a coaching certification for those who really want to know the right way to coach and get the fast pass, just like at Disney, on cracking the Coach six-figure code, so they know the exact how-tos in order to go from 0 to 5K months to 6 figures and then on to 7. There are steps you got to take. It's all in the certification. Down below are the links, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.